Hi, and welcome to the Golden Age Report. We're going to have a great show for you guys today. We're going to start out by looking more into this escalating Zelensky crackdown on the Orthodox Church. Next, we're going to get going into the latest wave of Russian missile strikes, as well as the attack on the 2 Russian air bases. Then we're diving into the latest happenings in the unraveling EU. Apparently, they're going to start doing their homework. Next, we'll cover what we think about Macron's U.S. visit. Apparently, he's Biden's first foreign visitor since being in the White House. And finally, we'll peek in and find out who's trying to pull Pakistan to be on their side. So let's talk about these letters. So it seems we have this trend growing across Europe. We are hearing increasingly more of the bloody letters or packages laced with explosives delivered to those connected with supporting the war effort. First we had this EU bloody hammer. Then the Spanish authorities received their explosives, and now the Ukrainian embassies got theirs. There's others as well. There is much speculation circulating as to who it could be. It seems there are so many upset with the corrupt war regime, it could be just about anybody, or likely several groups. We are sure, however, that the embarrassingly predictable mainstream narrative will be that it is Russia. Apparently, this is what the war architect, Victoria Nuland, said getting back from her trip from Poland. Is she afraid to meet with Zelensky in Kiev, or is something else going on here in Poland? Is he checking in on phase 2 of the war? We hear she's attempting to push through another aid and weapon package worth $37 billion for her buddy Zelensky. Pretty aggressive, considering the incoming Republicans are planning to investigate where all the missing money ended up from the last aid package. On another disturbing issue, we continue to hear concerning information about this crackdown on the Orthodox Church. Sounds like they're changing laws, jailing priests and church members to get rid of any dissent. We hope this isn't true, but it seems in line with everything else that's going on that we're hearing. We just pray that they will be okay until they can be rescued. As far as the battlefield, a Ukrainian commander is describing the Bakhmut situation as freezing cold trenches filled with corpses and water. So many losses they don't even count. Russian sources are estimating that between 500 to 800 casualties daily for Ukraine in Bakhmut alone. This is up from 250 a day they had just estimated a week earlier. As the Russians move their heavy equipment closer to the front line and the Ukrainians continue to reinforce, the situation is getting continually more dismal. We are hearing reports that the Georgian forces are about to be encircled. There are reports that these Georgian forces are highly sought after by the Russians due to these videos that are circulating. They claim this group takes no prisoners and even beheads them. We certainly hope there's no truth to this. Zelensky says that Solidar is hot right now. We hear that the buildings there are increasingly crumbling away due to the heavy Russian bombardment. This is leaving the Ukrainians exposed with no cover and turning into easy targets. The Russians are closing in and taking over parts of the surrounding suburbs. In the LPR, we understand that the ground is frozen now, and this triggered a Ukrainian offensive. They have an enormous number of troops, along with nearby reinforcements. For the second time in a week, the Ukrainians are attempting to take control of a major road there. They took it over briefly a few days back, and then lost it back to the Russians the next day. This area is right down in here. We are hearing that Ukraine has once again mounted troops in the forested areas of the region. Due to their Western training, they've held a huge advantage over the Russians in these wooded regions. The Russians have completely shied away from entering the forest after taking heavy losses earlier in the war. The armed forces of Ukraine continue to strike the border settlements in the Russian Belgorod region. As a result of the shelling, a gas pipeline and power lines were damaged. The other area that is and has been under heavy shelling is the Donetsk city. Russia still hasn't been able to stop that. As far as the EU, it looks like they're doing things in the wrong sequence. They probably should have done their homework first here. They seem set on pushing forward hard on this trade disagreement with the US. Although we don't disagree with them, it seems like bad timing. They might need some military protection soon, as they've been on a streak of making enemies. Their actions continue to isolate themselves. This is probably a risky move to announce a shortage of weapons and then go after your protection. Well, the EU is taking steps in the right direction, admitting that they need to do homework. Seems too late for that now because they're in a crisis. They need to find someone who can adjust to this time period that we're in. They also need to understand how to maneuver changing landscape. We recommend they go outside their own think tank and seek answers at this point. After Slick Macron tapped out on artillery, he headed over to the White House. The White House posted a picture of the two of them on Twitter. Supposedly, Macron met with Biden to let him know that they should give Russia some security concessions as part of a peace deal. We've been hearing that Macron's been working on a peace deal for quite a long time now. I think we need to see something in writing from him at this point, or just write it off as propaganda. After stopping at the White House, apparently he went on afterwards to talk to Elon Musk. Seems he wanted to flex some EU muscle on him. He warned him he was going to need to remove so-called disinformation. It seems to me that the real plan may just be to pretend they are working for peace to appease citizens. In the meantime, they are working to clamp down on free speech in a desperate attempt to gain back the narrative. In any case, it seemed that Musk's mood changed a bit on Twitter after the meeting. Well, Russia met with OPEC+. The group said they're going to keep the same game plan going even after this EU-Russian gas cap. Russia said they are not following the cap, and they will let everybody know what they will do to counter it later. OPEC Plus pointed out that this will cause a gas shortage. Even Zelensky jumped in there to denounce the plan. It seems like only the EU thought that Russia was dumb enough to sell the oil to its enemy at a steep discount during a major war. On another front, the Ministry of Defense had another meeting with Belarus. Are they getting ready to do something? They have this huge buildup on the Belarus border by NATO, so I don't think so. Russia reports that they have this new software system to increase the effectiveness even further against the HIMARS. Speaking of software, Microsoft has indicated they believe Russia is going to launch a large-scale cyber attack. In case you missed it, Russia launched another round of missile attacks from the land, sea, and air. The Russians and Ukrainians have a different narrative on the outcome, though. Ukraine said they were able to essentially shoot down the missiles and get their energy back online immediately. The Russian Ministry of Defense says the following: the command and control systems and related defense complex, facilities, communication hubs, power plants, and military units of Ukraine were struck with high-precision, long-range, air and sea-based weapons. The objective of the strike has been achieved. All the designated 17 targets were engaged. The details on the Odessa strike has some details leaking out. They hit the Odessa train network. It's believed they can't get rail in now from Romania, which is believed to be a major source of Western weapons moving into Ukraine. They also hit a machine building plant that was a locomotive depot. This is their backup solution when the electric rail goes down to put these old style locomotives on the track. We are also hearing some details on the recent military space rocket launches by the Russians. We are hearing that they put up satellites to see the situation over Ukraine and provide internet to troops. This is to level the playing field for the help that Ukraine receives from the Western commercial satellites. So it looks like Russia opted to do this instead of blowing up the satellites like Putin had threatened to do earlier in the war. It's also speculated by Russian sources that Moldova was struck by a Ukrainian S-300 rocket debris due to the Russian missile strikes. Prior to the Russian missile attacks, 2 Russian air bases were attacked by what was thought to be Soviet-era Ukrainian drones. There are multiple Russian deaths and injuries. 2 bombers are reported to be damaged from the attack. The Russian aerospace forces shot down an Su-25 and a MiG-29 in the Donetsk region. Pakistan was ranked number 9 on the global power rankings before their massive flood. They still don't have a clear side in the war as of yet. We have noted that Iran continues to extend a helping hand, and now Russia has jumped in there to help them out with cheap oil. We won't update our alliance tracking charts yet. We'll wait to see if Pakistan takes some decisive action before we do that. Here is a map of the Ukrainian drone strikes on the Russian air bases. Thanks again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and pound that like button. There's going to be a lot more coming. We're just getting started.